So this is more of a training in a different country, a cross-cultural opportunity to become a missionary here. And so I'll just show you the process, the things that God led me into, and the awesome ways that me and my team were able to help others and also be helped by others through this experience. So I'm just going to enter in prayer real quick. Yeah, Lord, I'm just thankful that you've given me the opportunity to go do this. And Lord, I'm thankful for all these people who are invested in the things that you're doing in other countries, the things that you're doing here, and the things that you're doing in me, God. And I pray that these people would be encouraged by this, that they'd be motivated by the things that you're doing, Lord, and that through all the things that they see and they hear, that they would give all the glory to you, that we would give all the thanksgiving and all the praise, that it would go to you, God, because you are the only one worthy, Lord, and you are the one who brought me into this and brought me through this, God. And for that, I'm thankful. In Jesus' name, amen. So, yeah, just being here right now, it's kind of a miracle in itself, actually. I woke up yesterday with a horrible sore throat and cough, and couldn't really talk until like 2 hours ago, so praise God for that, and a lot of people were praying, so thank you for that. My name's Michael, and I was in a program called YWAM, so that's Youth with Mission, it's an acronym. And so first up, I'll just play a little video that'll show you what YWAM is and what they're about.
So what is Youth with a Mission? Youth with a Mission, or YWAM, is a global movement of Christians dedicated to knowing God and making God known. YWAM started in 1960 as a way to get young people involved in missions. We still do that today, but we're involved in every kind of outreach, every kind of ministry that you could imagine. We currently have over 18,000 staff, with locations in over 180 countries. YWAM's many ministries fit into 3 major categories: evangelism, training, and mercy ministries. We do evangelism because we believe that everyone in the world has the right to hear the message of Jesus. We do training to equip people to use their unique calling to do that. And everyone in Youth with a Mission does an intensive half-year discipleship course called the Discipleship Training School. Our third focus is mercy ministries, where our staff are giving hope to the poor, sick, and those suffering from injustice. YWAM has a place for everyone and endless opportunities. You can find out more about what we're doing and ways to get involved at our website.
Yeah, so that is the organization that I went to, ultimately Perth, Australia, for 12 weeks to do a lecture phase, is what they call it, where we basically are trained and instructed on how to live missionally, how to live Jesus-centered. And when I first went to Perth to do this, I never really thought much of this. I thought this was kind of just going to be a regular thing. I breezed through this, just like Sunday school, and then you move on to outreach. But this was absolutely foundationally shifting for me. The experience in training in Perth was more than I could have ever imagined it being, and really changed my trip and honestly the rest of my life. So then we ended up going on outreach for about the same amount of time to Manila in the Philippines. The specific region was Parañaque. Manila is absolutely massive. I think it's more than 10 million people, and so the region we were in, we were able to contact maybe about 800,000 people live just in that region of the city. So it's huge, it's packed, there's people everywhere. You know, you get up at 3 a.m. and there's still cars, there's still traffic. It was crazy. All right. So DTS is a discipleship training school, and I chose the sports DTS because I like doing sports. I am sports oriented, and so I thought, well, if God can use this to do evangelism, well then awesome. So I decided to do it. And again, YWAM emphasizes this encounter with God and going deep into a relationship with God. And this is about encountering God so deeply, so vividly, and so dramatically that you can't help but reach out and spread the word and tell people about this God who has absolutely changed and molded your life. And that's really what DTS did for me. This is my team. Let's see where it goes. Okay, so here we have Australian Matthew, another Australian Isabel. We have another Australian here, Roberto. So then we have Switzerland, New Zealand, America, Fiji, let's see, Malaysia, England, and Canada. So people from all over the world coming to this one place in Australia to go learn about God and outreach. Okay, so that's us again. Okay, so this was the lecture phase topic. So, like I said, this was more, I kind of glanced over these before I went and thought, yeah, these are all important, these are good. I mean, this is stuff that I've got figured out, totally, absolutely. And then showing up and finding out that there was an absolute root of pride that was basically making myself incapable of seeing the fact that I knew none of these things, honestly, and I didn't really have them in my heart. You know, I knew them to be true, I knew them to be necessary and important for living a Christian life, but I didn't have it really seated in my heart. And so I went in depth, went through each of these things, and I thought, well, I'll just underline the ones that stood out to me, and, well, ended up underlining all of them, so that was amazing. But I think it was so funny because the evangelism and the missions weeks were probably the 2 weeks that were the least, like the least impactful to me. I guess it was partially coming into it expecting those things, and the rest were absolutely, incredibly life-changing and molding my character. This is part of lecture phase. This is probably about 2 or 3 weeks in. Yeah. It was fun, really fun. Okay, so there was obviously awesome things we did. We did like outreach in Australia. We got to do evangelism and stuff like that during the day. But there was a couple hours of lecture each day, and it was honestly pretty college themed. Like, you know, bring your own laptop, come to class if you want to. This is for you to learn about God if you choose to. And there was homework, which was basically the same thing, where it was like you can choose to invest, you know, if you want to, but at the same time, you know, in your journal you could write, I prayed today, you know, and so it's these different things where you had a choice to document what you wanted to research the Bible and what you wanted to, and find out is what these speakers saying is true. That was another amazing thing about YWAM Perth, the specific base I went to, was that of all the things the speakers said and did, it was pretty much 100% accurate according to the Bible, because as you find out later, that is one of YWAM's foundational values, is everything being according to the scriptures. Okay. So yeah, that's how the lecture phase looked. There's a little arrow pointing in my face. That's kind of how it worked. We were all just kind of crammed in there listening to a speaker. This was on Spiritual Authority Week. So this is an advertisement for summer camp at YWAM Perth. I just put it up there as a kind of reminder of, as a sports DTS member, we got up at 6 in the morning every morning and worked out before we went and did our daily activities. So knowing that, may not choose sports DTS again, but honestly it was awesome. And at the end they were like, yeah, actually, we're really not super oriented on the workout thing, but we just wanted to discipline you guys before outreach. And thank God they did, because we needed it. This is base intercession. It's when the base prays for the nations. So each week we worship 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then Tuesday and Thursday we pray for different things that God speaks to us to pray into. And so sometimes that's a nation, sometimes that's a people, sometimes that's a crisis that's going on, or sometimes that crisis happens in the future after we've prayed about it. And amazing things happen. There's my 2 base leaders. It's Kevin on the left and Molly on the right. And so they were absolutely fundamental in shaping me throughout the DTS. Okay, so that was Australia. Perth, Australia was super pretty. Externally, everything was set really nicely, but honestly, there was huge spiritual darkness over the city. Just entering the place, my soul was heavy. My spirit was just weighed down, and there was just this anger. You know, you look at people, and they want to fight you. Partially that was because I'm kind of a bigger fellow, I guess, and so like I'd look at these like Australian guys and they'd just be like, "What's up?" And I'm like, "Nothing. I'm just hello." And so like there was a story where I was walking down the street, hanging out with my friends, and I heard this guy yelling and screaming into his phone behind me. So I kind of glanced and I said, okay, keep walking. And like 2 or 3 seconds down the road, I hear, what are you looking at? And so I just assumed, no, that's not me, he's yelling at someone else. And just kept walking. And 2 or 3 seconds after that, I just felt a fist just boom into the back of my jaw. And this guy, like jumps in front of me, and I'm like, what was that for? Like, he's like, what are you doing? And he's like, kind of looks me up and down and just runs. And so I have no idea what the deal was. Honestly, it was pretty funny looking back on it. It was. I was like, at first I was so like, what? This was the first week I was in Australia. Like, what is this? Is this a whole mission trip somewhere? And so like, I was like so confused, and I had my rugby playing friend next to me, and he just started to run after him. And I was like, oh, grabbed him. I was like, you know, in the papers the first week we were here, like 2 young missionaries beat the crap out of some Australian guy, you know. And so it's like, we just need to settle down and figure out what the heck was going on. And you know, whether that was darkness, just a demonic presence trying to scare me, trying to intimidate me, or what it was, I don't know. But there was a definite power over that city, and there was explicit, just boom, racism just there towards Aboriginal people, and honestly towards the whole city itself, kind of Eastern Australia. Just, see, now I'm a stereotype that thinks they're better than Western Australia. That's just kind of how things are. And then there were a lot of Aboriginal peoples in that city too. So there was like this, it was almost like a class system of just emotional darkness. And so many hours were spent in worship and intercession and trying to reach into the hearts of these people and have Jesus do the work, because it was an amazing place to train for evangelism, because there were so many hardened, bitter people there. So honestly, it looked pretty, seemed great when I walked in, but as far as evangelism and spiritual things go, it was very difficult to outreach in Australia. So then we went to Manila. There's trash and like vines going over the streets. There's people everywhere, smoke. You couldn't breathe. It was like, this place is crazy. And the people were amazing. So open to evangelism, so open to the Spirit of God. They wanted it. They just didn't know necessarily how to find it. They viewed God as a figure in the sky who looks down upon us, not a relational God who wants the one-on-one conversation with us that He offers. So this was a day in the life of an outreach student. So really full days, and so some of us would split up and go to different schools, different prisons, different things like that. Basically, the whole day was filled with things. So we'd have to actually intentionally leave times where we could just see what God wanted us to do with those few moments, those brief moments that weren't scheduled out to doing prison or worship or school teaching or something like that. So another thing I noticed as soon as I got to Manila was this extreme wealth next to extreme poverty like that, but it was very difficult to see these people starving to death on the streets, and then this beautiful church right next to it, just ignoring the fact that there's so much poverty, so much pain, so much almost just this feeling of trapped in their current circumstances. This was our Day of Compassion group. So this was after 2 months of outreaching and evangelism. This was the group of Filipino people who were going to take over our evangelism and outreach after we left. So it was super encouraging to see. I mean, you can barely, there's like, you see us scattered within them, I guess in the back there. I mean, most of them are there, and they were all doing a great job. They were all ready to just take over, to just start going for it as soon as we had left. And so that was kind of our goal going in there, was to get people to continue this process and continue outreaching, continue evangelizing. And it's just this multiplication process that we really wanted to see, that we got the chance to see. Okay, this is an open air. I don't know why I'm looking at the ground right there, but it must have been a fantastic piece of dirt. So what we did at open airs is we would sing, and I mean, honestly, whatever God was speaking to us, speaking to our hearts to do. There were times when I would just stand there and sing. It was super awkward, but you know, people were like, what the heck is he doing? And talk to us, and perform dramas. Anyways, here I was sharing the gospel, and there was the girl next to me with the mic. She was a 13-year-old girl who just walked up and was like, hey, I'll translate. And that's insane, because the first thing you'll know about Filipinos when you go there is they will not ever speak English in front of other Filipinos. Like, they will, but they have to be really pushed to do it, really pushed, because there's this thing where a person's stupid there if they don't know how to speak a language precisely. So if you try to make an attempt and it's not quite right, then you're just mocked, ridiculed. And so the fact that this girl was willing to step up and do that was amazing, and not something you see often. So this is our evangelism. A lot of times there'd be kids that would run and grab onto your arms and just hold you there, and it's so funny. Sometimes they surround me or jump on my feet and stuff, and then run up behind me and dive and try to knock me to the ground. It's this super exciting thing for them, where it's maybe we can make this big tall guy fall over. I wonder how long it takes for him to hit the ground. I don't know what the thinking was, but they just love doing stuff like that. And it was hilarious, except for hour and a half in, you're like, oh my gosh, my arms are so tired right now. And half the kids, they want you to lift them up and stuff. And so this is another thing we do, is we go out into a street and we just read the Bible until someone approached us. Or, some days we would just actually go out and read the Psalms, and people would sit there and listen to us and just watch us and different things like that. And we tried to approach people and interact with people, but sometimes it was just Bible reading. And that was honestly a great way to reach out to people. So this is the Daniel and the Lion's Den. I was King Darius, and so I guess that's my King Darius face, I don't know. Anyways, the kids were doing their thing. You can see there's one on my foot there. I don't know. They were already preparing their slam. I'm sure this kid's running behind me, ready to just commit his life and knocking me over. So, that's so we performed multiple dramas. One was a gospel skit, one was a forgiveness skit, and then we just come up with ones on the fly sometimes. So this was a Jesus film showing, so we had the Jesus film in Tagalog. We got to invite as many people as we could to that, and then just sit down and watch the movie with them and pretend that we were understanding what they were saying. Yeah, Jesus, okay, yeah. And that was honestly really cool, just to see people it was so funny. I don't know, just the innocence. They'd see Jesus do something in the movie, the fish in the nets was one thing where they're like, no way. Wait, he filled the net with the fish. And I was like, yeah, it's crazy. They were like, no. I was like, yeah, read the Bible. They were like, oh my gosh. So they actually just love this stuff. So this is one of our gospel skits here. The guy in the white shirt is Adam, and then I'm supposedly God, and basically I've created the world at this point, and now I'm showing to this basically baby Adam that this is what the world looks like. If you see in the background here, that's kind of just what things look like. That what we're standing on is what they call their school. And there's a bunch of kids, I think I have a picture of them behind me in the next picture, but they were like, we walked up to this little patch of dirt, and we're like, so is the school in there? You can go to the next, and they're like, this is the school. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so there's our translator, Brian. He helped us get everywhere. So they just lived in situations like this. All these kids, that's where they went to school. Basically, they had the bush there for their shade, and that's it. That's what they did, and that's how they learned. And so, not everywhere was like this. There was places of extreme wealth, and it was just contrast, just like that. But so many of the people had to endure that. We got the opportunity to share in a lot of churches, share some different messages and testimonies and different things, and they were really happy to have a tall white person speak in their church. It was hilarious, and one of the things was they loved basketball. Everyone in the Philippines loved basketball, so it was actually hilarious. There'd be churches where they'd be like, today we will have the basketball player share. I was like, what? What? How does this pertain to Jesus at all? It's like, obviously Jesus played basketball, but so it was so funny, but they really were like that. The Global Youth Outreach Conference was a conference where we got as many youth, young people in the Philippines, invited as many as we possibly could to come to this place where we just did a huge worship session and mini DTS. And so it was amazing. The reaction from the people, their desire for God, to know God, was unbelievable. I don't know how many of the people and the kids, the youth there, are going to become missionaries, but the amount of people who wanted to live missionally, the people who came forward wanting to start now and live their lives missionally, was amazing. That's just a picture of less than half of them. So basketball evangelism was one of my favorite things to do. I guess you can kind of see me back there. So we'd set teams, and I have a circle for teams. That was kind of a good opportunity. Now I can pray for you guys. And so be able to do different things like that and just basically integrate Jesus wherever we could. And so a lot of times what we do is I'd pray with different teams before games and things like that. And then we'd have them sit down along the edges of the court and share the gospel with them. And so basically it was just a way to reel them in, trap them in a gym, and be like, now you gotta listen to me, share the gospel. And it was so cool because so many of those basketball players were the kind of guys, or honestly, kind of do have to lure them in to get them to hear that kind of thing. Yeah, so that was our local gym, and just playing around with some of the young people. It was nice because if I dunked in front of them, then they'd let me onto any team. Any tournament, any team. You could be on the Manila City team, like whatever you want. I was like, okay, that's great. So anyways, I get into games and stuff like this, so that was really fun. This is another just chance to pray for these young guys after basketball. And these were guys who were meeting weekly, so these guys were really into it and really appreciating and enjoying the times of prayer that we get to have. Here I'm refereeing a tournament. YWAM got to do a full citywide tournament, so that was a lot of fun. This is hospital ministry, another opportunity to reach out to people through just whatever we could find, honestly. He was just looking for different ways to get in contact with people. This was a really, really difficult thing to do. We would go in and we'd pray for healing and then share the gospel afterwards. And we saw people get healed from diseases. We saw people's hearts just completely change like that. We saw amazing things happen in very hospital ministry. This is prison ministry. So if you can see all those heads in there, it was like an 80-person cell with 180 inmates in it, I think is what it was. And so that was, oh my gosh, it was unbelievable. They couldn't lay down to sleep. They had to sit like that with their legs crossed to sleep. And part of that was the new government was creating rules and regulations to keep drugs off the streets. So I mean that was a good initiative, but honestly it put a lot of people behind bars. So that was honestly sad to see, but a great way to reach out to people and preach the gospel. That day, that we're performing a drama. That's a forgiveness skit drama. That day we saw 80 men give their lives to the Lord and 12 women. So things like that were happening all the time in those situations. So this is, there's a chance to teach in the school. To the middle schoolers, they loved it. They were so excited just to hear an American speak. So honestly, it was a really good foothold to get their attention and get them to listen. That was so cool. See how they loved taking pictures, doing different things, and they had their little love heart thing. I don't really know what the deal is there. But yeah, they loved that. And they really were just so excited to be cared about, I guess. Just excited to see someone come to their country and invest in them and love them for just who they are because Jesus told us to. And they were so excited to see that because there's a lot of pain, there's no entitlement there. So this is the final picture here. This is our group after outreach before we split up. And yeah, it was a lot of fun, but we were kind of like, we didn't necessarily believe that. That's a high statistic. And we weren't 100% sure if that was true, but actually what ended up happening is we had bishops from Manila shadowing us, secretly coming to our events, coming into schools and listening to us preach, and talking to people after we had left to see who had really given their lives and who was actually going to start coming to church, and they would count the church growth and stuff like that. We ended up seeing, during our time in Manila, 80,000 people join churches or give their lives to the Lord over the course of the time that YWAM was in the city. So it was so cool, so awesome to be a part of that, to have a chance to see those things happen, a chance to see incredible healings take place. We had times where there'd be people who would ask us for healing, and we get the opportunity to pray for them. I got to see a lady who couldn't walk without a crutch. She had arthritis in her knee. I got to see her walk away praising the Lord. A woman with a stroke get out of her wheelchair and walk for the first time in 3 years. I didn't see this, but we saw a demon-possessed lady was cured of that. So the demon was cast out, and it was a process. Oh my goodness, visiting her over a course, a period of different times, and never running, but not knowing what to do, like trying to do what we can. We're just young people. We're just a bunch of 20-year-olds running around trying to see what Jesus wants us to do, and doing these crazy things that we would never be capable of doing on our own. Oh my goodness. Seeing God do those things through us and being able to experience that was so cool. So yeah, if there's any questions, I would love to answer and give you guys some information about YWAM or anything like that. If you guys have anything, I'd love to speak.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
I know you had to have a big sale and raise your own money to go over there. What did it cost you to go?
So it ended up costing me $3,200 to go to Australia for 3 months. So they paid for my food, paid for my store, like living there. They paid for the lecture phase, that paid for the things they gave me there, that paid for the leaders, buying me McDonald's after outreach, or after reaching out in that city. And then we went to Manila for $2,800. So it ended up being, what is that, 6,000? 6,000? So it ended up being 6,000 total to go and live in these 2 different countries. They paid for flights, not to Australia, but to the Philippines and back. So like $6,000, like trying to do it on my own, would have got me maybe like to Australia, to the Philippines for a week, back to Australia and home. And so yeah, like being able to do it for just $6,000, the whole trip, the 6 months to Australia, Philippines, back to America was unbelievable.
Yeah, that's an amazing price.
Yeah, and so, and you'll find out about that pretty quickly if you look into YWAM. There, it said in the video, there's 18,000 staff in YWAM. That's actually just staff. So students like myself, not included. So all those staff members, they come up with their money from Jesus. YWAM doesn't pay them to work. YWAM does everything they possibly can to keep it cheap, just to let God provide. They love seeing God provide. Oh my goodness. Put in so many situations where it's like, we have no idea what to do, pray, and then it works out, and that's amazing. And so that happened to me multiple times on this trip, and finances was one of them, where it's like, I'm just going to pray, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, they really are oriented towards even scholarshiping people.
Was there anything in middle class, or was it just extreme poverty?
And it was difficult because where I was at, I was in a super, like when we first got to the church, I was like, is this the prison? Where I lived was super impoverished. So I saw a lot of that. And then when we'd go to a different section of the city with like a wealthy part of the city, it was just, it was it was more than I liked. It was too much money going around, you could just tell. Stuff where it's like, oh, I'd never pay for that. No way. And so it was like this just extremeness that I saw. And maybe the middle class people were kind of just hiding away. But see, I was just immersed in this poverty, and then boom, here I am in this, like, it's uncomfortable for me to be here. Wealth. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure there is, but really not a large majority at all. That was weird to get used to.
You've been gone for 6 months, huh?
That's right. And it's summer in Australia. I can't believe I'm here. Just kidding. I love it here. but it's true. All my friends from Australia are snapping me and sending me videos like, yeah, in the ocean right now. It's like, what? But yeah, it's been weird getting back. Coming back, you're just like fully immersed. You climb this mountain, and you're at the top of the mountain, and you're loving Jesus, and you're doing your thing with Jesus, not worried about work, you're not worried about finances, you're not worried about anything. And then you come back home, it's like, whoa, coffee's $5? Oh, man. Guess I have to get a job. So, yeah, it's been weird being back, but honestly, it's been really focusing on what I'm going to do in my life. Like, actually going and just taking a break and doing something completely not related to what I was planning on doing in my future has really directed me into what I want to do in the future. Yeah.
Why did you go in the first place?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, this is hilarious. Okay, so I was in College of Corporate University, and it was awesome there. I loved it. It's a really nice private Christian school, but it's a lot of money. Anyways, I got injured pretty badly, so I had the option to either continue with the team, and they would just pay me to watch them, which was really uncomfortable for me because I was sucking so much money out of the school that I actually really loved just watching them. Or I could drop out. Those are basically my two options at this point. And so I had promised God earlier in the year, just like, well, if I ever drop out of school, I'll go on a mission trip because I never drop out of school, so it's no big deal. And so this situation happens, and I'm forced with this decision where it's like, oh my gosh, like maybe God is directing me this way. And so I ended up ultimately pretty much having to drop out. Like there really wasn't that many options later in time. And so I was like, well, I made this dumb promise. I guess I better figure out what I'm going to do here. Somehow stumbled across YWAM Perth. It was amazing. I wasn't looking for it. I wasn't really intentionally seeking out sports, ETS, or anything like that. Just stumbled across it. Turns out it's one of the, if not the best YWAM bases in the world. So God totally directed me there.
Were your classes all in English, or did you have a translator?
In Australia.
The Philippines.
So in the Philippines, we had a translator with us just about everywhere we went. And so that was so difficult. We want to reach out individually to people in prisons and stuff like that, especially young juvenile prisons, stuff like that. And, what do? Pull out your Tagalog Bible and find words that you can relate and try to talk about those things. And I picked up actually a couple sentences, a couple like basic conversation starters with them, and they really liked that. But basically we were really limited. It was a completely new experience for me, being able to not converse with someone without someone else there to translate for me. It was really strange and really difficult at times.
Because there's so many dialects.
Yeah. It's such a, I won't say it's a bad language because I didn't grow up speaking it, but it's so strange. It's like the Spanish and almost Asian combination. So they were like tableware, clothing, household items. Oh yeah, I know it was Spanish. But then I go to have a conversation with them and I'm like, what are you guys speaking? Like, what are these words? Just completely unrelated to Spanish. And so that's because the conquistadors coming in Manila and stuff. But anyway, so there was this really weird combination of languages, and honestly it was really difficult for me to learn, but I did my best and was able to converse and learn everything.
How about the food?
Okay, so their traditional food is one of them is called balut. It's where they fertilize duck egg, let the chick grow, and then boil it before it hatches. And they think it's delicious. And so, they really wanted me to try it, and I was like, okay, here I go. And I tried it, and I was like, oh, it's like scrambled eggs. And the rest of my team was like, you're sick, oh my gosh. And so I ate it, and I was fine with it. They ate chicken intestines, pork intestines, chicken blood, like little squares of chicken blood. That was the worst for me. They ate chicken feet, chicken heads, all these things which I was forced to eat. Honestly, I didn't mind a lot of it. The chicken blood was rough. But as far as it being normal, no. The food there was really, really strange. If you want to go somewhere that freaks you out as far as food, go to the Philippines, it'll be great. So yeah, super strange. Totally threw me off. But luckily, it was God. My mouth didn't reject it too badly. So that was nice.
You mentioned the hospitals. To do the ministry in the hospital is scary. Is where you, why?
Well, you were put in a situation where these people really expect you to just heal them. And so partially it was the explanation of, well, it's not actually me who heals you. It's actually Jesus. And he can, but I don't control him. And he has a better plan than I do. So I'd love to see you get healed right now, but I have to ask Jesus to do it. And so that explanation, whether or not they could understand me saying that, them expecting to be healed instantly, them, a lot of them in really, really hopeless situations, trying to share the gospel with people who are just, they don't want to hear anything, honestly. It was difficult. It was difficult, especially this especially that initial pressure where it's like they expected you to heal them, and I can't do that, but Jesus can. And so expressing it to them and communicating that was the difficult part, I would say.
What was their health like? I mean, you're in the lower echelons. What was health care? Was there any health care? What was, babies being born, did you see anything like that? What could you tell me?
So when we went into the slums, there just kids up to 4 or 5 years old would just be naked. Just didn't worry about buying clothes, too expensive. Most of them, or a lot of them, had mucus coming out of their noses, ears. Just difficult, really, really difficult to see. And the slums, there wasn't anything. I mean, even the water they washed themselves with, they drank. It was shocking to see. The places where I was at, there was a lot of street children. So their parents would just be gone working or doing something during the day, and they would just run around doing whatever. And yeah, I mean, they'd beat each other up sometimes, and throw stuff at each other. I mean, stuff that kids do. But there was no adult there to say, oh, watch that cutout. Oh, don't hit her that hard, unless we were there. And so that was really difficult to watch, to see happen, and to know that there's not much going on. But there was a hospital there, obviously, and people would go in extreme situations. Pretty much the people we saw in the hospital were like, yeah, I could die from this. I mean, that was the deal. And I'm sure in other districts, other regions, people just go, to get checkups or whatever, but I do not think anyone in our district was going to the hospital to get checkups. They were going when they absolutely needed health care. They were going to die probably, or get hurt severely. Yeah, so it was a good district to start in for me. If you want to experience culture shock, that was the one.
So Michael, did they, I know they had a lot of different teams. Yours was sports specific. What are some of the other ones? Did they have a team that did mercy ministries or?
So all teams do the 3 areas of ministry, but we had media teams, we had educational teams, we had counseling teams, we had Priceless, is what they call them, teams, which is basically, I don't know if you've seen the movie Priceless, against human trafficking. Really good movie, you should watch it. They would basically go out in the stoplight districts and talk to girls who were in prostitution, trapped in it, and even talk to the guys who were running it, things like that. There were teams who would do music. They would hold music concerts, worship things, go sing in churches. Teams in YWAM, there are teams that will do whatever you were searching for. You can go, I looked into a snowboarding BTS. You can literally do anything. find a way to share the gospel doing it. But Perth had a bunch of actually really practical ways of doing it. They had an art and journaling one where you create storybooks and give them out or something like that, or you take pictures from the country you outreach and then make a book when you get home. So there's a bunch of different options there to do things like that. There was a vehicle industry which I helped with and stuff like that, where you repair vehicles and do just all kinds of different things like that. Wow, it's really diverse in that way. Yeah?
Do you think we can do something like that in the local schools and maybe the prisons, maybe outside of the market? What do you think? Will we be taken to jail or can we do it?
Here?
Yes, in U.S.
In Grangeville? Oh, yeah.
Greenville or any other city of U.S.
Yeah, I mean, we can do it. The deal is it's, I think it's honestly just a fear factor. It's like, oh, what if I get rejected? When in all reality, Jesus tells us, expect to get rejected. Shake the dust off your feet and go to the next person and share my love with them. And it's never us who does the converting of the person. We just are the catalyst. We share the information and Jesus says, gotcha. And so I think it's just this fear of putting ourselves in a position in front of people who know us, maybe, who unless there's just Western culture in general, it's like we're advanced, so now we assume that our faith is primitive or something like that. There's just these thoughts that go on, these doubts that go on in our minds, and yeah, I'm definitely interested in looking into ways where we can start something like that. And right now I'm trying to do, I'm helping with the youth group here. I'm going to start trying to do an open gym night where we do worship afterwards, after basketball and things like that, trying to get youth involved. Yeah, so if people are looking for ways to share in the community, I'm really trying to work on different ways that I can do that right now. But it is kind of sad to see that it's not even an option. It's like it's illegal, when actually this is one of the countries where it is, where we do have the freedom to do something like that. And so, why we're not taking the time, why we're not devoting time to that, I'm not sure. But it's a good question, and your answer is yes, it's legal. And my secondary answer is I hope that people start doing that soon.
How was the safety factor with your group? Do they go over that with you when you're going to these places?
Mm-hmm. There was a darkness in Manila, is what they call it. I don't know if they just didn't know what the translation was for it, or if it was a spiritual darkness, but the church members would never let us out after 11 o'clock because of the darkness. Never told us what it was, wouldn't tell us why, and everything was fenced, gated, and locked at night after this point, and I don't know what it was. Still don't know to this day, but I mean, you walk around every houses, bars in front of the windows, fences 10 feet high surrounding the place. Our church was like that, except for maybe more than 10 feet. It was probably like a 14-foot wall surrounding it. It was iron. And every church was pretty much like that. And so there was just this thing that they wouldn't talk about, and all the time I would just see, there's just this nice, sweet people. I'm 6'4", tallest guy I met there was like some professional basketball player for the Philippines. He was like 6'2". I mean, like, who is actually gonna physically hurt me? Like, I was confused, and they just never would tell me what the darkness was. And so they wouldn't, even at night, they wouldn't let us out with more than 3 of us together at the same time. During the day, 2 of us always. So that was just the rules in Manila, 3 at night, 2 in the day. And basically just kept an eye on each other, but just never had a problem with that in the Philippines, except for that one thing that they always talked about, and never would actually tell us about. I don't know if it was drugs or spiritual darkness or what. And as far as spiritual darknesses go, there'd be, people today would call them crazy people who would run outside the church yelling profanities and screaming at the sky and things like that. Not a lot, but it was, that stuff would happen. Pretty obviously demon-possessed people. We tried to pray for them, but they wouldn't let us out of the church. In Australia, the girls had to have a person with them at night. But other than that, it was just one person during the day and stuff. But we were the reason they had that rule at all, the girls had to do so, was because we were boom planted in just like the middle of a really sketchy spot in Australia. Our base is surrounded by 3 brothels. And yeah, Australia was scary. Australia, it was evident that there was reasons to be cautious as far as physical harm goes. I got surrounded once, and I was just in the park, and a group of 5 Aboriginal guys surrounded me on the park bench, and just stood there with their hands clasped, and I was like, "What's up, guys?" I kind of said it like that, and they just looked at me and didn't say anything. So I said, one of them had an Australian football. So I was like, "Hey, you guys play footy?" And they're like, yeah. Like they didn't expect that out of me, like in this situation. And I was like, "What position?" And so just kind of like led them down this conversation this whole time. I'm like, like putting them, taking their mindset out of this like mode and this expectation where it's like, "No, I just actually am hanging out here and I'd love to get to know you guys." And by the end they were tossing the football around and see you guys, and they walked off and I walked off. But definite situations like that where it's like you just gotta be ready for stuff like that. Like I was saying, you glance at someone, they want to fight you. I mean, I glance at people and, "What the F are you looking at?" or "F off," and I was like, I didn't even, sorry. So it was, Australia was scary. And then the Philippines had this darkness thing. So as far as safety goes, those are like the 2 contrasts. In Australia, you saw it. In the Philippines, they talked about it. I don't know. But there was an element to it where you had to be cautious in what you did. Absolutely.
Sounds like they took good precautions though.
Yeah, absolutely. Always were careful. The girls hated it. They never wanted to find some guy to walk with them. It was like, "We just want to go home." And honestly, they thought the safety precautions were too much. I mean, which maybe they were. Probably I'm sure in most situations they were. But in other times, like there were one time when a base leader didn't let me go to something. I'd been talking to these 5 guys who I was playing basketball with in Australia, and my leadership didn't let me go one night. Because basically the guys pretty consistently showed up drunk, pretty loud, pretty rambunctious. And so, honestly, the safety precautions were more. See, I would have gone. I totally would have gone. They would have been, I think they would have been fine. So, I mean, I feel like the safety precautions are even a step over the line, but that's how they should be. And so, yeah, they did a really good job as far as keeping us safe goes. Yeah.
I'm just gonna, 2 follow-ups. So there were the stats in regard to the effect and impact of the YWAM Perth outreach within Manila. Do you know what the body count of YWAM teams that went during the season you went with? And then the other thing was just Amalia's question about outreach in a place like Grangeville or any other western place. I assume a huge part of your lecture phase was prayer with regard to guidance and impact and transformation where you were going.
Transformation from the prayer?
Yeah, just the whole thing of we can stand on a street corner and talk to people, and that's a great thing to do, but I'm assuming there was a lot of prayer and preparation and inviting God to do something that you can't do.
So, just to give you a glimpse into that, so it looks like the updated total for all the teams, I'm just checking on my phone here, for Heard the Gospel was 98,000 people. And then we prayed for 90,000 people. So, a lot of those people received prayer. And then we have, I'm not honestly sure where I have it on my phone, but there's an updated thing that'll tell me how many hours of intercession we went through in the Philippines. And it's unreal. You'll think, I mean, there was thousands of hours just dedicated to reading the Bible out loud in the streets. Prayer was absolutely a completely essential part of our trip, and what made us able to share the gospel the way we did and see people respond the way we did. There's no doubt in my mind. There'd be people in the street where we pray for them. They'd be just against Jesus, against the thought of Jesus. We pray for them. We come back knit by them. There's one guy in particular, I prayed for him in Australia, and he was just, oh my gosh, and wanted nothing to do with it, but he let us pray for him after. Basically, I had someone talk to him while I was praying for him, and he decided not to shut me up. And when we came back, he was like, I think I want to start a church. So, I mean, like, my first response is like, oh, he's crazy. Got it. Okay, that's right. So, I mean, prayer did more than we ever could do, just reaching out to people. There are moments where we do a intercession and we get words from God. And so, one time, I told Cope about this, is I got a picture of an angel battling spiritual powers in the city of Manila. And I was like, well, that's weird and really extreme, but I felt like I should pray into it. And so I started to pray, and suddenly it just, like I said, my prayer really intensified. I just started to get words, and honestly, I could just tell that God was giving me things to speak into this. And like verses started to come out of my mouth about Joshua's encounter with Jesus. My friend was with me, so he was like, wow, and remember this stuff, but stuff from the Bible where Joshua encounters Jesus and worships him, and Jesus says, I am not fighting for you, but rather you are fighting with me, and that's why you win. And so different, like, this verses just started coming out of my mouth, and praying according to the Bible, and the clouds formed an angel in the sky above me. And the moon was shining down on it. It was like, oh my goodness. So things like this were happening during this trip. Things that I'm sorry to say, but you just don't see here. And I mean, afterwards, I was out of breath after this intercession. And I had been punching the ground, and like, you could see, and it was amazing. The things, I don't even know what impact that prayer had and what it did, but I know that it did something, and it was important. But for a glimpse of what we did, so for the 3 months on base, we interceded an hour, 3 days a week. During outreach, we interceded an hour twice a week. So it's a lot of hours. It's a lot of hours added up, and that's groups of 10 people, all praying different. We break up into threes in prayer. A lot of prayer, a lot of effective and eventful prayer. Stuff that we saw bring change, stuff that we saw do amazing, miraculous things. And so it was absolutely effective. In Australia, the days where we would worship in the city before we go do evangelism, it was like night and day. If we just go out in the city and try to reach out to people, they'd just be like, screw you, I'm out of here. The days that we worship, they would at least list it. There'd be people, who seem kind of alone, who seem just waiting for someone. There'd be things like that happening. And so, absolutely, I mean, this stuff seemed insane, completely crazy to me when I went on this DTS, but things like getting a picture of red shoes from God, believing that it's a picture of red shoes from God, and then going out on evangelism, finding someone with red shoes, sharing the gospel with them, and that person comes to Jesus. That's an actual story, though. Things like that happening. If someone else was up here saying this and I was sitting there listening, I would be like, no, you're crazy, And so, I mean, all I can say is I have no real reason to lie about this stuff, but it was amazing.
Do you think that the reason you tend not to see that so much around here because when God gives this thing, like guy with red shoes, we tend to just ignore it?
Yeah, following God, listening to God's voice is a process. Because, we think it's like a prophetic thing where we hear the audible voice of God saying, go do this, my son or daughter. And it's like, that doesn't happen very often. But what we can do is when we feel an urge in our spirit to go tell someone that they look beautiful today, which is super awkward, super uncomfortable. We don't want to do it, so we ignore it. And suddenly, these urges, these things that we feel, we start to completely ignore, sometimes not even experience or feel them. But when we open ourselves up, and this is what DTS does, when you open yourself up to that, when you start to feel that urge, go up to that person saying, you're beautiful, and then run off or whatever, we begin to hear these things more. We begin to see, we don't even necessarily need the voice anymore. We see this person, but they really need me to say this to them. And we think it's us thinking that, but many times that's probably God too. But you begin to experience these bigger things where God's kind of like almost testing your faith, where it's like, hey, if I tell you to go evangelize to that drunk guy who's screaming over there, will you go do it? And you're like, and you really don't want to, but you do. And then the next time God's like, do you want to go pray for healing for this person over here? And you're like, I really don't want to, but you go do it, and that person is healed. Or maybe not, but you decide to do it the next time, and that one is. Or it's this thing where we step into this place of faith, and God brings us into these situations that lead to testimonies, right? I mean, basically all testimonies are made from stepping out in faith. I mean, you can't really have a testimony if you just sit in a box your whole life. And so, Jesus wants us to experience this. He wants us to hear Him and trust Him, and give us the opportunity to have these testimonies, these different things we can share with people. And so YWAM's huge on that. Hearing God's voice, experiencing these things, and actually doing it. Because that's what you're in it for, right? Because I was committed to doing that, I was like, okay, God, here I go. I don't know any of these people, so what's the worst that can happen? Dive in. And so, here, it's scary. I do know that person, but God, they'll see me tomorrow. If I pray for this person, they don't get healed, they're going to walk by me on those crutches tomorrow. And there's that doubt, right? I just assumed that person wasn't going to get healed. And so, God, I believe, still calls us into these things, but it's difficult to step out in faith. And it takes more of a commitment to do it and to step out like that.
So I don't know what all you have planned, and I, believe it or not, even though it's my son, I hope we haven't talked at all today, but I just think maybe if it fits with what you're planning to do for wrap-up at some point, maybe you could pray a little prayer of commissioning over us. Immediately I think of Kelly Turney right now, but we all have our places of influence. We all have our people that we're interacting with, and that's what it's about. Go and make disciples. It's not this huge structured thing. It's this, as we're living our lives, touch the people we can touch. But I did particularly think of Kelly. She just recently has a transitional opportunity with Hope Center, but there's others. There's all of us here. We live in Grangeville, and we love people. We connect with people, and if that makes sense and fits in, maybe you can just pray a prayer over those of us who want that.
Well, as it turns out, I believe that prayer is powerful. So I would love to have us pray for each other to do something like that. The gospel is meant to be shared in moments of God's glory. What did Jesus do? He'd go out and he'd heal people, and then he'd share the gospel with them. And that's what they do in Acts, that's what they do in a lot of places in the Bible. They'd go and there'd be a witness, there'd be something amazing. It was God's power, obviously, there's no question. And that's where they'd share the gospel. And so, just praying for God's power to be evident, to be felt, to be acknowledged in this place would be awesome. And honestly, it's not like I'm any more qualified or in any way special or have some ability to pray for people. So what would be cool is maybe we could get in groups and pray for Grangeville. That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
I think you experience the extraordinary because you were doing the extraordinary. You stuck your neck out there, exposed forcefully, purposely, to an area that could be scary for a lot of people. And in those circumstances, we're open to experience the supernatural. And probably we don't because we are too passive and comfortable with our faith. And thank you for your testimony.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, I guess just my encouragement is, the gospel, Matthew, I think, yeah, it's the reason that I'm up here sharing this with you guys is, let your light shine, so praise to God may be given. So the whole reason I'm here speaking this is not to say, well, look what I did. It's to say, God's amazing. He's moving, He's active, and it's not just in places other than here.